Hey, how's it going? So we're going to be doing the equal stacks, right? So we're going to be doing this one. Okay, so there's the long way of doing it, and that it doesn't work. I'm just saying that, if you tried it, just don't do it. This is basically what we're doing is we are reducing the array and then shifting the max. So basically we are creating an array out of an array by what we're doing is we are reducing it, right? So, and then recording the max into the array. Then we reduce it by 1, record the max into the array. Reduce it by 1, record the max into the array, right? We do this for every single array, and then we're looking for the number that appears in every single array, right? That means we have reduced every single array to the number that is, so now every single array is now that number, right? And then we want to sort it from biggest to smallest, and then return that number, right? Because we want to have the minimum height at which they are equal, right? So that is too slow. This code is too slow, right? So instead, we're gonna do it slightly faster. It's honestly, it's exactly the same logic, only as opposed to reducing every array and then recording the value of the reduced, we're going to do it slightly differently. We're going to do it a lot smarter, basically. Okay, so how am I going to show you how to do it correctly? Okay, so I'll try to demonstrate this. So let me record real quick. So the first array, so we're gonna have array 1, array 2, array 3, okay? 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, right? 4, 3, 2. Now in here, remember that beginning of the array is actually the start of the array. So normally you use pop to take the stack of the from top of something, but in here we're gonna have to be using shift. So we're gonna be doing this, okay? 1, 1, 4, whoops, 4, 1. Actually, let's do, yeah, let's just do this one, honestly. Let's just do this one. Okay, so what we're going to be doing first, we are going to create an array that's going to hold all of this. Okay, so you can imagine there's going to be like invisible array. Well, it's going to be visible, so it will hold all of this in it. So there's going to be 3 arrays inside of big array, and each array is going to have an index. So this index is going to be 0, 1, 2, right? So index, I'm going to put index in here. It's going to be very confusing. I strongly recommend you try to kind of try to do it the long way first, and then reduce it to this simpler logic. Because if you haven't done the long way first, it becomes very, very confusing. All right, so that's going to be your index, right? So then we're going to create a what's called sum array, all right? And sum array is going to hold the sum of these arrays in it. Okay, so again, it's going to be the same index. Honestly, we can just put the sum array in here. Yeah, so sum array is going to be sum of these bad boys. Okay, so then we're going to create a for loop, right, which is going to run infinite number of times. You can do a while loop if you want. I like for loops because you can break out of them a lot easier. Well, it's the same thing, honestly, it's just the same thing. Now, the first condition is here, if, right, if all elements in array 1, basically if array 1, oh no. The first condition is going to be in this array, if all elements in this array are equal, then break. Okay, that means we have reduced this. So think about this sum array as holding um, the sum of every stack of cubes or whatever they're called. All right. So what we're going to be doing, so this is the sum array holding the sum of those cubes, right? So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be popping off, we're going to be taking one element. So first we're going to be looking at the height of the biggest element, right? So in this case, it's going to be this one here, all right? What we're going to be doing, we're going to be removing this element from it, like in here. We're going to be removing it, right? So now our sum array has 3, 2, right? So think about it. All right, so first thing, we find the element that is the biggest height, okay? The biggest height. So we found it, it's this element here, and then we're gonna shift that array, okay, off. And then we're gonna reduce our sum array by this number so that now it represents the new number. So imagine this is now what we found it. So this is the tallest, right? It has what 9. So we're gonna take 4 away and reduce this L. So this is index 0, 1, 2 in the sum array. So now we're gonna take index 1 and reduce it by 4. So now it represents what's actually inside of this array. Now you can do it. Basically what we're doing is, right, so this element here is the biggest, right? So we pop this element off, and then we're gonna take sum array because it should be 9, right? And then what we have to do, we have to reduce this array to 5 and replace this number with 5, right? But we're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is instead, because this takes more resources, because you have to recreate an array, reduce the array, and then assign the array to this number, right? So what we're gonna be doing, we are simply, so you can imagine this is 8, 9, 7, right? So we go into index 1, we are going to unshift this number, right? So we are removing this number. And then we're going to minus this by this number. Minus this, right? So now this array has 5, and now this has 5, right? It saves time trying to reduce this array again to 5 and then reassign this number to here. We can just minus. It's a lot faster. Now, and then now the next loop is gonna start, right? Because we're running for infinite loop, right? We are again going to find the number that has the biggest height, okay? So in this case, it's gonna be this here, right? So we're going to, at index 0, we're going to unshift this number, right? And then we're going to minus this number from 8, right? So it's going to be minus this. All right. So now we see that this is 5, and now this is 5. Now, next iteration starts. Right? We're going to find the tallest in here, the biggest number in here. Okay, so the biggest number in here is at index 2. You see that this, the biggest number in here tells us what index needs to be shifted. Does that make sense? Right, I hope it makes sense, right? So this tells us at index 2, we need to shift this element, okay? So we're gonna shift this element, right, and minus this, okay? So now this and this are the same. Now the next loop starts. We find the biggest element in our sum array, which is 6. This gives us the index of the array that needs to be shifted, which is index 2. We're going to take index 2 and we're going to shift it, right? And we're going to reduce by what has been shifted, this sum array, right? So now we have all elements the same, right? This condition is now met, that sum array, all elements are now equal, and we're going to break out of the for loop, right? And what we're going to return, we're simply going to return, you can return, there's always going to be 3, so I just return the first element in the sum array. All right, so sum array 0. And that's our answer, basically. That's it. Okay. I know it's a little bit confusing. Basically, we need to use sum array, right? So this was, I think this was what, 3? This was 3, 4, and then 1, 1, right in here. So why is the first step important, right? So remember, we're doing the first step, we're finding which element is the biggest in the sum array, all right? So once we find it, because that tells us at what index we have to do the shift, right? So it's 9, we shift the array 2, okay? Right? We repeat the process, we find 8, we shift array number 1. And then we minus what we have shifted, right? We find the biggest element, which is 7. This tells us array 1 needs to be shifted. Whoops. I wonder why this works and this does not. Oh yeah, because I need to do the sum. There you go. So we're gonna shift 1 in here. Okay, so we repeat the loop. 6 again. We need to shift 1. Okay, so now condition has been met. The for loop breaks. And then we're going to return any one of those numbers, and that's our answer. Does that make sense? Let me try it on a different one. So 3, 2, 1, 1, right? Oh, it's already this one. Let me do it on a different one so you'll be able to see it again. In action. I'm sorry for it being so confusing. It's just that's like algorithms, you know, you can't really, because the long way is a lot easier to understand, but like the long way is not acceptable at the upper intermediate level anymore. So we have to do it the long way. We have to do it this like the shortest possible way, you know. Okay, so our first sum array is gonna be, we're gonna reduce every number, right? So this is gonna be 5. This is gonna be 4. This is gonna be 2. Okay, so the first, we create our for loop, right? And then we start. Okay, so first find the max element, which is 5, right? It's at index 0. We need to shift this array. Oh, whoops. So we're going to shift in here. 5 minus sum of these bad boys. 4 minus sum of these guys. Okay, so we're gonna look at the biggest number, right? The biggest number. So it's probably gonna be 4 again, right? So we are going to shift this one. So next iteration starts. It finds 4, index 1. We need to shift this array. Next iteration starts. We find 3, index 1. We need to shift this array. Condition is met. For loop stops. And then we return 2, and that's our answer. And that's it. Okay, this is how you actually do it. Oh my god, am I even recording? Yeah, I am. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now let's make the machine do it, right? Let's make the machine do it. Whoops. So this is 1, 2, I think like this, right? Okay, so what do we need to do first? We need to create an array that holds all of those arrays. Now, the easiest way to do it is to do this. Let array equals h1, h2, h3. But you can do it clever, and you can do it like this, arguments, right? This will be exactly the same thing. Whoops. You see? Or you can do it this way. It's exactly the same. Honestly, I'll just do it because it's confusing enough, you know. I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll just do it this way, honestly, because I mean it's confusing enough. I'm not gonna do the you know, the mumbo jumbo codes. Okay. Okay, so now we have created this array here that holds all of our arrays in it, right? So the second thing, we need to create a sum array. Sum r, right? So this is going to be array.map element. So it's going to map through every single array, and then we're going to element reduce accumulator value equals accumulator plus value. Okay, so this gives us this here. So this array will tell us what index. Do you see that there is 3 elements in the array and 3 elements in the sum array? So these elements tell us which array from the you know what I'm gonna call it main array, so you don't get confused. Okay, main array. So you see in main array and in the sum array there are 3 elements. All right. Whoopsie. Yeah. So when we're scanning for the biggest number, this tells us what index we need to shift. And that's the whole purpose of this thing here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to then I'm just gonna console log. I'm going to console log them so you'll be able to see how they move through every iteration. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna create a for loop. Variable I equals to 0, I smaller than 1. Now, this should be infinite, but we do it one by one. Okay, I plus plus. So end of for loop I, right? So the first thing we do, we need to scan through this array and find the index of the maximum number, right? So the way to do that is let max, okay, one sec. Now you can do it in many operations, but we're gonna do it in one because we need to save resources, right? So we're gonna look in some array dot index of, right? And then we're gonna do math max. Oh man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do it in one single operations, okay? Let find max equals math max, and then we're gonna put some array in it, right? So this gives us the biggest number in here, right? So the biggest number is 5. Then we want to find the index. Let max index is equal to some array index of find max, right? So now this will tell us what index we need to unshift from here. Index 0, right? So what are we going to do? We are going to go into main array, right? And we are going to go with the max index, right? Because we need to use the max index, right? Because max index is 0. So we need to shift this array in here, right? So you will see that this 1 is going to disappear, right? Dot shift like this. You see, so this number has now disappeared. Now, our problem now is that there is still 5, 5, 4, 2. So I'll show you what the problem is right now, right? Well, you can probably see the problem is that our sum array indicates that at index 5, at index 0, the sum is equal to 5. But if you look in here, the sum is equal to 4. So we need to remove in some array 1 out of this 5, or whichever. If this was 2, we should remove 2, right? So what we're basically doing is, see the way we did the shift, right? But the problem here is that 5 is still 5, right? So we need to minus from this array whichever number we have shifted, right? And you know that we can access that number through that shift, right? So what we can do is we can do like this. Some array, right? Index. This is gonna get incredibly confusing, but I'll try to explain it. Okay, let me just show you that we have access to the number 1 in here. You see? So we have access to 1. So this equation, or whatever you want to call it, this operation here is equal to 1, or whichever thing we're going to shift. If we're shifting 2, it's going to be 2. You know what I mean? Like, I hope you know how shift works, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're basically going to be, we need to access some array, right, at index where 5 is. So that's going to be max index 0. Max index, right? So, and then it's going to be some array, max index. Okay, so think about sum array max index right now is 5. Let me just show it to you. Okay, sum array max index. Um, so you see this is 5, and then you'll see it after transformation is going to become 4. All right. Minus, you remember this operation, not only does it shift, it also contains the element that we shifted of the array. So we can minus it from 5, right? So now you can see that at index 0, 5 is now 4, right? So we basically have done this, right? We minus the shifted element. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, right? Okay, and that's about it, I think, right? Man, it's confusing because there are so many ones in here. I'm gonna shift this to this array in here probably. It'll be easier to understand. So this is yeah, it's gonna be easier to understand this way, I think. So this is 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 4, 1. Okay, so this is what? 8. This is 9. This is 7. Okay, so what do we know, right? What do we know? On our first operation, we're gonna find max, and max is gonna be 9. Let's just check it, right? Max is 9. At what index is 9? Index 1. Index 1. We are going to take the array at, we're going to take this array here, 4, 3, 2, at index 1. This is index 0, index 1, index 2. So array at index 1, and we're going to shift the first element from it. So we're going to take the 4, and we're going to shift it in here, right? So now the operation, you see this thing here now equals to 4, because it's always equal to the element that's being shifted of the array. So we're accessing 9, which is at index 1. This is the index. And we're minusing, not only are we shifting, because look, you see, after the transformation, array at index 1 has now lost 4, right? And now our sum array is 5, you see? So this element here, 9, we minus 4, so now it's 5. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're gonna repeat another loop. We're gonna go through the loop. We're gonna find 8, index 0, right? So let's do another loop. So we found 8, which is the biggest element, right? Oh man, that's gonna suck, because yeah, we're gonna need to do this in here. You see, so now the array is 5, so we look which element is the biggest. Let me just get rid of this for you. So now we found 8 as the biggest element, right? So 8. At what index is 8? 0. This means at the main array at 0, we have to shift one element from it, right? Which is going to be 3. So essentially what we want to do, we want to take this 3 and we want to, oh, whoops, we want to take at index 0, we want to take this 3, want to move it in here. All right. So you see, we had 8, which is this element here. We're gonna take 3, we're gonna remove it. So you see now 3 is gone. You see, like it used to be with 3, but now 3 is gone. And we're gonna take the 8, and we're gonna minus the 3. Right. So now you will see that sum array is now 5, 5. Man, this is so confusing. I'm explaining this and I'm getting also confused, but like, just bear with me. Bear with me, okay? All right, so now we're gonna do another loop. Right? So what's gonna happen? It's going to scan. It's going to find the biggest element, which is 7, at index 2. Right? So that's what's gonna happen. Right? Index 7, and biggest element is 7 at index 2. There it is. Right? We can see it in here. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna shift array at index 2 by the first element, right? And we're gonna minus by the shifted element, right? So now, if you look at the sum array, there's gonna be 6 in here, okay? So now we're gonna do another loop, right? We're gonna do another loop. It's going to find 6 at index 2, and we're gonna remove this element from it, right? So let's do another loop. So it found 6. This is the max, index 2. We're going to shift this index. You see, so now there is going to be, I probably need to have main array in yeah, it's going to get very confusing. Yeah, so you see, now it's going to shift this element away and convert it into 4, 1. Do you see? And we're going to minus this shifted element from the 6 that is in here, and we're going to have only 5, 5, 5 left, right? So that's what we're doing. We're taking this element at index 2, we're shifting the array at index at 2, minus the element, now there's 5. So now we have a problem where we don't have a condition where if all elements in the sum array are all 5s, we have to break out of the loop, right? So let's just add this condition. So if sum are every element, so element should be equal to sum are 0, right? We're gonna console log all are equal, and we're gonna break out of the loop. All right, so now we know that sum array is 5, 5, 5. If we do the next loop, it should indicate that all elements are now equal and break out of the loop. Boom, you see? Nothing now is being added, right? Because if we keep going without this condition, it will find the first element that, like, the way the max works is that it finds the first, if there's like 5 elements that are all the same, it will take the first one, and then we're gonna continue our loop, which is not gonna be very good. Does that make sense? Now you see it shifted element from, where did it, yeah. So what it did was it found the first element and it shifted this like this. So now this is 3, that's why we see 3, 5, 5. So we need to stop that from happening. And the way we do that is we are adding this. Okay. So now we can change this to infinite. And we want to return sum array like this. And then that's it. That's our solution. So the final thing you always want to do, you want to get rid of console logs, basically. Otherwise, the code is going to be just way too slow. Let's test the solution. And there you go, all done. So again, like the key in here is to always look for the biggest number in the sum array, and this will tell you what array in here needs to be shifted. All right. And when that when that shift happens, so let's say we're taking 3, you need to minus the index in the sum array by this shifted element. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And you just keep doing it until they're all equal. Now, in this case, there is always going to be a solution up until 1 maybe, right? And then that's it. That's how you do it, right? So like the whole thing is to create a sum array, scan for the biggest number. This tells you the index, shift that index and minus sum array by the shifted element at that index, and that's it. That's how you do it. And when this sum array all elements are equal, break out of the infinite loop, and then return any number, and done. That's it. All done. All right. Take care.